Hello and welcome to this episode of What's Good Mzansi. Today we are joined by Billy Selekane. I hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Billy, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Jared, and how are you doing? And I hope the Mzansi people also had a good day. It's a beautiful, cold April day out there. Yeah, and I was busy doing my walks around the house. I'm feeling strong, which is really cool.
Fantastic. What have you been busy with during the lockdown?
I've been teaching a master class every day between 10 and 11 on Facebook, and also rewriting one of my personal mastery program, which is relaunching on the 15th.
Fantastic. I mean, you've had. You've been doing business all over the world, right? So you've had quite an amazing career. Can you just tell us a little bit about that for people that aren't familiar with you?
Well, I started as your. I don't want to use the word typical, but there's no other word.
Yeah.
I started as a township boy who was ambitious to do amazing things.
Yeah.
And then I ended up in the world of motivational speaking, which when I started, it was based on my signature story. It was based on my story of overcoming the odds in my life. And that grew and started taking me around the world. And as I got deeper into this world, I started, researching around organizational culture and leadership. And then I ended up, doing a lot of coaching, leadership coaching for small business, medium size, top government, some few heads of states, top athletes. And my career has literally taken me to over 60 countries around the world. And this year, it's my 20th year. So it's my 20th anniversary in the business of inspiration, transformation, teaching, and coaching.
That's fantastic. You've also got a weekly slot or you're a fixed feature on Kaya FM. Is that right? I mean, you speak every week on Kaya FM?
No, it used to be Kaya FM. Then I shifted to Radio 2000, and I've been there for like 10 years. And then politics came, and me and the morning show guy were shifted out. So now I'm only live on Facebook on my own personal page. And I still do the world traveling. And my last travel was on the 26th of February. When this thing started picking up, I actually landed back from a 4-day stint in Namibia.
Cheapest, so you just made it.
I just made it. And by the way, the funny thing is I got sick when I got back. And I phoned my doctor, and this thing was still a little bit hazy. We didn't know what it was, the symptoms were. And my doctor said to me, listen, Charlie, you're just tired. You're suffering from chronic fatigue. You need to sleep. So he gave me some sleeping tablets, and for 2 full days, I just slept out, And I woke up, had a bit of a cough, got some medicine, and I was okay. And I was saying to somebody, wow, maybe I was almost hit by this thing,
Yeah, very true. I mean, that's when it gets you, when your immune system's down. And it shows you. So, I mean, for somebody like you, this has almost been a blessing in disguise, because you're getting to just look after yourself and rest a little bit during this lockdown.
Absolutely. Yeah, actually, it's a time to all recalibrate. Yeah. I was saying to people, what this virus has done, it has created a world I call dematerialization. So the world has been dematerialized. So what does that mean? It means your V8 beautiful car with mag wheels doesn't matter anymore because it's parked in the garage. It means your Hugo Boss tailor-made suits don't matter anymore because they're in your wardrobe. It means your beautiful black credit card that you used to throw around at restaurant to feel important doesn't matter anymore. It means your title, CEO, CFO, head of this, head of that, it doesn't matter anymore. What this virus has done has slowed us down tremendously, but it is also teaching us to go back to the essence of humanity. Because it doesn't care whether you're rich, poor, white, black, Chinese, Indian, it hits everybody. So it is reminding us that at the end of the day, we are all human beings. And if we can operate from that essence of humanity, we'll make this world a better place.
Absolutely. I was listening to this prime minister, well, it's not a prime minister, one of the guys in parliament in the UK, and he was saying, we thought that the world was reliant on your CEOs and your top billionaires. But reality is, in this day and age, the world is reliant on your cleaners, on your people, on your front of line staff. And these are the real heroes of our time right now. So all of the stuff was normal to us is just completely flipped on its head. And now we actually see the people that are really important to holding us up as humanity, as economies, and as in our nations, are the people that get the least respect.
Yes, and all the overpaid football players have done nothing to change anything. So we are being recalibrated. We are being taught that this fantasy and this crazy world that we had created, completely unsustainable. We now have to create a world that is real, a world that is driven by compassion, that is driven by empathy, that is driven by love. That's the kind of world we need to wake up to. Yesterday, I was a host at a business webinar, and I was speaking about organizational culture post COVID-19, and I said to people that organizations have now stopped, they must now stop talking about employee experiences and start talking about human experiences. How do you create an organization that is more humane, that respects the essence of humanity? You know, and that's what's happening, and it's quite exciting because it had to happen. This world was too crazy. We were too fast. There were too many things, too many cars, too many planes. It was crazy. We were not keeping up. And you know, the gap between the rich and poor was growing up. I mean, this year, you know, Oxfam said that 22 of the world's wealthiest people, their wealth is equal to 3.4 billion of the women population of the world. It's madness. How does that happen? And now suddenly the billionaires are equal to us now.
Yeah. You know, I hope that we see a lot more giving from people that have got, because really, what are you doing now? You're sitting on stuff that's absolutely useless. You're sitting on money that can't really help you. You can't buy any more yachts. You can't buy any more boats. Maybe you can't buy any more businesses at this stage, but you can help to keep people. You can help the grooves of other people's heads, you know, and I think we really need to just examine our level of humanity.
Absolutely, yeah.
Billy, I mean, you know, the conversation that you were having yesterday that you were just discussing with us now in terms about bringing humanity to the workplace. I mean, how do we go about doing something like that?
Well, we'll go back to human values. You know, every organization, they've got what they call core values. So the values determine their behavior internally, how they treat their employees and how they interact with customers out there. So instead of looking at those core values as organizational values, we should now go back and revisit them and call them human values. That what are the 4 or 5 things? What is the guiding philosophy that this organization must live by to become more human? That's what we need to do. And once we do that, then we're tapping into the essence of the core of humanity. You know, and I love what's happening. Besides the negativity, there's a huge positive. Now, I say to people, and we all know that Africa is the cradle of humanity. We all know that. That human beings evolved from Africa and then shifted into the world. And the sad part of it all is the American way of doing things, the European way of doing things has always been seen to be superior to the African way. And the same, you know, European and American came back to Africa, completely destroyed it, made it corrupt, stole the minerals and stuff like that. Now, if you go back to Africa before colonialization, you've got to ask yourself questions. What was happening? So let me share with you some anecdotal data about Africa before colonization. Africa had 3 universities, in Egypt, in Timbuktu, and in Sudan, 3 universities. It took Europe 230 years before they had their first university. 230 years. And in that time, what was happening? Everybody, the Greeks, the Romans, they were all coming where? To Africa to come and learn. And the foundation of our lives then was based on the concept of Ubuntu, which is a concept that people take for granted. Because the concept of Ubuntu never speaks about the ultimate individualism. And the concept of Ubuntu was grounded in this concept that says it takes a village to raise a child. So when a child was born, that child was not born to a family, but she or he was born to the village. And it was the responsibility of the village to mentor and prepare that child for either womanhood or manhood. So now, if you look at the American way and the Eurocentric way, it says, I'm the man. I'm going to become singularly successful. I'm the CEO. I earn $20 million. And the guy at the bottom of my organization earns $2,000 a month. So it was I. And what did this I thing do? If you go back to the crash of the economy in 2008, it's not as if somebody pressed one wrong button and everything started crashing. Greed was making a full circle. Because most of the things that made the economy crash was some hot air being sold. People were selling futures, they were selling all these things, and most of these things were based on hot air, not based on any value. So therefore it means we've got to, now people have got to ask us, they've got to now come to Africa and humble themselves and say, before we messed you up, guys, how did you make things happen? We built the pyramids. We did business with the Ming dynasty, you know, and how did we do it? We did it because we understand this one profound thing, that we needed to coexist with nature. We never used to uproot trees. We used to cut a tree in such a way that it grew for the next generation. So we were always congruent to nature and we respected the environment. I was in Italy, I was speaking in Italy last year in October, November, and I went to the Duomo in Milan, which is the 3rd biggest church in the world. Now, they say it took 400 years to build the Duomo. Beautiful, beautiful architecture, lovely. But here's the fascinating thing. That building is falling apart now. Why is it falling apart? Because when the second industrial revolution started, they never thought about the things that they built, like that structure. That whatever technologies they were using had the opportunity and the chance to destroy the very beauty that was built. And now pollution is destroying this beautiful building that it took 400 years to build. So what is the essence of what I'm saying? Is we have to go back to Humanity 101. What does Humanity 101 say? It speaks about the concept of Ubuntu. What does Ubuntu say? That I, Billy Selekane, can never become truly the essence of being me without me allowing you to become you.
Yeah.
So my success is not dependent on me and my connection. And my success is dependent on my contribution.
Yeah.
It's not what I take what's important. It's what I give, which is profound. And I think that's what's happening. I think now the world has to learn to listen. And these lessons have been happening for thousands of years in the continent. Sadly, there's been some mess around colonialism and corruption. But we now have to reawaken and say, how can Africa now give the world a new agenda? An agenda driven by compassion, an agenda driven by empathy, an agenda driven by love. Because the highest level of life is love. And love is not a noun, it's a verb. We don't talk love, we do love. And if we can get to that level that love, when you love something, you don't build a nuclear bomb when you're in love. Why do you build it for? When you're in love, you don't build the next biological war weapon. Love doesn't do that. Greed does that, because you're talking about hate, you want to destroy the next person, you want to get their resources, therefore you're operating from a space of lack, not abundance. Love is abundance and hate is lack. So we've been living for many years, for many generations, in a space that is driven by greed and driven by hate. And I think the time has come for us now to go back to the essence of humanity and understand that love builds, love doesn't destroy. Love doesn't bear grudges. Love doesn't count score. Love doesn't say, oh, I did this for you, you must do this back for me. No, love says, I'm going to give of who I am, because once I give of who I am in a true and honest way, you're going to give of who you are. It does not necessarily mean you're going to give it back to me. It means you might pay it forward with the same emotion and the same attitude that I gave to you.
Yo, that's profound. And I think we're seeing that common thread. You know, every single person that I've spoken to of late in these last couple of weeks, it's always been the same message. It's about how do we serve now? Because this is the time to serve. How do we serve? And you know, the automatic reaction from serving, from doing something for somebody else, is that in some way it will always come back to you. We don't need to know what that is. We don't even know. We don't need to keep score on it, like you said. It will make its way back. It does. It comes full circle.
Absolutely.
Just everything else has come full circle. You know.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that this time, you know, in my personal mastery program, I was saying to people that we are given an opportunity to relook at our life holistically. You know, what does it mean? Now we are now stuck with our families involuntarily. So we need to learn to share and be open, because the only time that we spend so much time together is when we go on holiday, which is something that gets planned. But now we are stuck together involuntarily. We didn't plan this. How do we survive as family units? How do we begin to look each other in the face and begin to speak honestly about our feelings and honestly about our expectations of each other? And this is that time when our egos must be parked on the side and we must open ourselves up through our human vulnerability. We must now say, you know what? I don't know it all. I don't have all the answers, but collectively we can find the answers.
Yeah. You know, I think that for my own personal being, you know, sometimes you feel like if you don't have all the answers, then you are failing in an area, or you are inadequate in an area. And I think that we get to hide behind things like technology, we get to hide behind things like our work, we get to hide behind emotions like anger, because those are the things that keep us safe from having to be exposed, you know, exposed to vulnerability. I mean, let's just speak on that at the moment. I mean, how important is it for us now to be vulnerable, for us to show awe and bear awe?
You know, when you become vulnerable, you're opening your heart, you know, because I say to people that when we live our lives with a clear intention of mind, when our thoughts and our thinking process is very clear about what we want out of life, and when we create this thing called the heart and head coherent, when your head and your heart are coherent, it means that what you think, there's an emotional elevation of that environment that you're wanting to happen in your life. So when you become vulnerable, you're opening your heart out and you're saying to the next person next to you, this is me at my deepest core of humanity. And when I'm opening my heart to you, I'm not opening my heart to you for you to think that I'm weak, now you can attack. I'm saying I'm vulnerable, now love me. Accept me, love me. And if I've said and done something that has hurt you, that has given you pain, tell it to me with the same amount of love that I'm opening my heart in. Don't look at it as an opportunity to attack because it is there's a perception that I'm weak. Vulnerability is not weakness.
Yeah, it's strength.
Vulnerability, it's strength. It's a very powerful strength. It is humility at the highest level, literally. And when you're vulnerable, you know, I say to people, if we look at our lives around us, we've got a quantum, we've got energy, we've got an energy field around us. And when we are not vulnerable, our field is like this. It's like a Wi-Fi. When it's this small, you can't get data, things are slow. But when you become more vulnerable, you're opening up this energy source around you. And suddenly, the world around you responds and embraces your vulnerability with love that even you could not conceive to be available in people. And suddenly, people show up for you in ways that you could not believe or could not even comprehend that people can show up for you. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to be open and we need to say, I don't know. People don't want to say, I don't know. I work with a lot of leaders and we'll be going for strategic planning and they'll be standing up and saying, oh, when I did my MBA, and I say, you know what? People don't care about your MBA. People don't care about where you did your MBA. People care about two things. The first thing is, are you a man or a woman of integrity? The second thing they care about is, how do you make people feel? When you are with people and you leave, what kind of emotion do you leave behind? Do you leave an emotion of resentment, of hate, of bitterness, or do you leave behind an emotion of love and connection and vulnerability? That's the two things that people measure. That's all that there is to it.
You know, Billy, what if we learn our lesson for a short time in this period? You know, we come out of lockdown, we come out of COVID, we start moving forward, and I mean, what are the chances of us just resetting back to where we were?
The chances are there that it would happen, which I call default setting. You know, people will go back to that default setting. However, I've been listening to people and I've been seeing what people are doing. Guys in my industry, there's a lot of my peers around the world who are giving so much powerful content and teaching. There are musicians singing love songs. You know, there are people writing very powerful poetry that is filled with hope and with love. And this movement has become more powerful than the past movement and the past DNA that we were. Yes, there'll be some pockets of people going back, but the wave is too strong to be turned back. And I think we're gonna wake up in a world that is just unbelievably amazing. And this has started and there is no going back. And we're ramping it up now. We're moving, you know, we're becoming stronger. You know, some of us used to teach once a day, we're teaching twice. We're writing stuff. So some will go back, but man, this wave is powerful. This wave is very powerful.
It really is. I mean, what can we be doing in our daily lives now to make sure that we continue with this process? You know, I mean, because it's important that you, like everything else, you've got to exercise, you've got to practice. And so what practices can we put in place now, Billy, to ensure that we continue on this momentum, this path that we're now on?
Well, I think what we need to do, we need to start from creating a clear division between two things. The one thing is our needs, the other one is our wants. And I think that the world had focused on wants more than needs. You know, poverty is not an illness. It's a man-made phenomenon. Because people had spent too much time on their wants. You've got 5 cars, you've got 7 houses, you've got 2 boats, you've got 3 private jets, and all of those things are not needs, are wants. So we need to say to ourselves, let's be honest with ourselves. Let's put our wants aside and only focus on our needs and make sure that when our needs are met, that we then create a process in our lives where we meet the needs of others, not their wants again, where we meet the needs of others. And the needs that we have are quite simple. We have a need for shelter. It doesn't say a double-story house with a jacuzzi, a swimming pool, and no, it says shelter, okay? We have a need for food and nourishment. It doesn't say langoustine, prawns, fettuccine Alfredo. It doesn't say, it says food. We have a need for clothing. It does not say Giorgio Armani, Hugo Boss. No, it's a clothing. we have a need for connecting with each other. It does not say go to a big concert and buy the VVIP ticket because then the artist is going to come and give you a selfie. No, no, no. So we need to say, what are the things that we need as human beings? Focus on those needs. And when your own personal needs are met, ask yourself this question: who else's needs can I meet? But we should meet people's needs not at a paralyzing way. We should meet their needs at a transformational way. So instead of giving, can we teach them? Can we give them skills that they also can have an opportunity to fend for themselves? It goes back to the old adage: give a man a fish once, you feed him for a day. But teach him how to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So we must now all be the teachers of men. We must teach men to fish. This is the time that we need to do it. And no other time in the history of humanity have we been this challenged. So we need to go back to our needs, put aside our wants. Once our needs are met, go out there and train other people to learn how to fish.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, we haven't been this challenge before as man, but we've also never had this much, these many tools to be able to work with. And I think to myself, like, we've got this these amazing tools, amazing technology, and we've got this amazing willingness to want to teach one another. I mean, those things combined surely has got to put us in a very strong position going forward, you know, being able to actually empower people, being able to give people the education that they need and the resources that they need in order to turn their lives around.
Absolutely. And I think in this process, we should not also forget, you know, I was telling somebody that it's easy for me and you to sit here, we're on Wi-Fi, we're watching, we're talking on Zoom, but a greater majority of our society don't have access to data, number one, let alone devices. So we've got to say, let's create a world or a society or a community where at a very foundation that people have got access, very, very foundation. Let computers be made cheaper, let data be made cheaper, so that the same people that we want to teach and transform can have access to the content so that they also can begin to transform their lives. And that's where we need to begin, at the very basic, and make the basics easily available. Because I still don't understand why we don't have Wi-Fi's in township. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it why MTN, Cell C, Vodacom, their data is so expensive. I don't get it. Because that, you know, data and access to the internet is almost like it's now a human need. It's no longer a comfortable, it's no longer a nice to have. It's a must have. So we've got to make sure that at the very basic, there's accessibility for as many people as possible.
Now, how do we go about doing that? I mean, I think that this is a working model that everybody needs to get involved in. I think it needs the private sector and definitely government needs to start working and looking at things like this, because otherwise, like you were saying, it's pointless having all these advances in technology if not everybody can access them. And if not everyone can access them, well, the bottom line is not everybody's going to be able to do business. And if that happens, well, our economy is going nowhere. So, I mean, how do we come together as the private sector and government to make this happen?
Well, I think what we need to do, we need to begin from this very simple philosophy that says charity begins at home. So I'll give an example. I was born in Tembisa, okay? So where I was born, in the section that I was born, that's where my impact must begin. I must go back there and do a need analysis, a proper, and say, you know, how many children are here, you know, the level of, the standard of living, blah, blah, blah. How many computers does this society, this community need? And how much data will make them, you know, so that's where we need to begin. And then when we create this thing, then we create pocket of excellence. By so doing, we then create a critical mass of people that have got access. That's where we need to begin, in our own locality. And some people say, some people might say, I was not born in a township. It's okay. You can go to the local city council. They've got data. They will tell you, out of this township, out of Khayelitsha, out of, you know, where is the most need? Data is there to make you be able to go to the right places and make the right impact. I think that should be a dual strategy. The first strategy is those that were born in the township, go back to your locality, begin to do a proper need analysis and see what impact you can deliver immediately. For those that have not been born in the township, use the local data, which is available anywhere, and find out where the biggest needs is and how you can make an impact. And if we do it that way, we'll then create this universal access.
And I think it's so important for us to be going into these spaces that we're not familiar with. You know, we have to go in. It's easy for me to sit here and talk and to pass judgment on somebody being in my position. The moment that I step out of my position into something a lot less comfortable and go into somebody else's place of living, go into somebody else's community, see how those communities are actually getting by, then it becomes a lot easier for me to say, hold on a second, you know, I need to actually step in here and help. So I think we need to have a lot more cross-pollination in terms of in terms in a lot more integration. And the integration hasn't happened nearly enough.
It hasn't, absolutely. And I think we need to do this integration, like you're saying. I think we need to invite our fellow countrymen and countrywomen who have never been where we were. We need to induct them into this world. We need to show them the reality. Because some of them still see it on television and as part of the news. They read about it in the newspaper, but they haven't walked there. I think there must be a mass exodus of men like me who've been there, who invite men like you who've not been there, and just to create this reorientation so that we can feel the emotions. And I think once we do that, we'll then elevate and speed up the process of creating this universal access.
I love what you said there. You've got to be able to feel something, right? Because seeing it is one thing, but having an emotional connection. And I think, I mean, let's just talk about that for a second. How important is emotional connection to everything that you do?
That's the basis of transformation. If you can't feel it, it can't move you. You know, it's like a song. If I put lyrics and close the sound, you just see words. I can close the lyrics and open the sound. The emotion gets engaged. If you cannot feel it, it cannot move you. It just can't move you.
Sure. Listen, I mean, we're living in such an amazing time, such an interesting time. That there's so much beauty. I can't help but feel like there's this groundswell, and I'm seeing it so much in what we're doing as well. You know, with hashtag I'm staying, there's like this groundswell of people just coming up from all over the place, and I think people are just ready to just put down their defenses and open their hearts.
Absolutely. And I think yes, we've been given a second take to life. We need to grab this chance with both our hands and create amazing societies. We can do that. We have the capacity to do that. You know, we've seen examples of us being able to do that. The World Cup victories, the Africa Cup of Nations victories, those kind of events and moments brought us together like nothing else. Now let's use this one to really get deep dive into our societies and do proper transformation and allow it to grow over time. And I promise you, if we do this right, we'll have an amazing country in the next 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. That is a fact.
I believe that. So Billy, tell me, what does life look like for you after lockdown? I mean, what are your plans? Have you started planning yet for anything going forward?
Well, I'm rewriting my model. I'm writing a couple of books. So I'm really geared for this new world. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm excited, even though anxious, because things have really changed. But me being me, if you look around my office, I can show you now, I'm working hard, flip charts all over the show, books everywhere. So I'm in this building, you know, space, and I'm learning and I'm getting content and I'm connecting with my colleagues from around the world. So for me, it's an exciting time to rebuild. So I'm in that great, beautiful rebuilding stage.
Stunning. What is your message for South Africa on a final parting note?
My final message for South Africa is, if you look at the word Africa, South African, there are 4 powerful letters at the end of the word African. I-C-A-N. What does that mean? I can. Individually, we can make things happen. Let's reawaken the dream of a rainbow nation and bring it to life. Let each and every one of us who has the capacity to contribute in your own small little way, go out there and say, I'm going to do my thing. Whatever your thing is. If your thing is to sing a song, sing a powerful and uplifting song. If your thing is to cook with love so that the food that you give can edify the spirit of man. If your thing is to teach like you've never taught before. If your thing is to connect people like you've never done before. So each and every one of us has to show up with the deepest essence of who we are, away from our egos, away from our titles, away from our things. But we need to show up in the way that is powerful and that can transform this society. So that's all I'm saying to South Africans. I can, as a South African, all of us can make a difference. And there is no better time than this time for you to show up for this country.
What an amazing message. Billy Selekane, ladies and gentlemen. Billy, thank you so much for joining us. I've really appreciated the time with you, and I'll hopefully chat to you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me here, and I really appreciate it. Let's make it happen, Mzansi. Let's make it happen, Africa. Let's make it happen, the world. Thank you very much.
Take care.